Cross the Atlantic in record-breaking time, powered by just your own ego. Virgin Atlantic Challenge is a game based on Richard Branson's second attempt to cross the Atlantic in record-breaking time on the Virgin Atlantic Challenger 2. The Challenger 1 sank. Being the owner of Virgin, there is a game based on the event, so let's give it a whirl. We'll start off on the Spectrum. So there you are. You are Richard Branson, not in fact Alan Sugar, as the graphic looks like. And you're wandering around on your boat, and there's different locations on the boat you visit that tell you different bits of information. For example, the telex. Would I like to market a home laser kit? Answer, yes. There's some radar that tells you where your refueling point is. There's a galley where you have to stock up on calories. Also have to watch the display down the bottom there, so it's told me there's a fishing boat, so we better go up here and just change my course, although in fact I don't appear to be moving at the moment, so I've avoided the fishing boat even though I wasn't actually moving. So we need to get on course, as what the radar said down below, although it's really fiddly to adjust. Oh, there's fog up ahead and a big shark that presumably won't eat us. So we're setting the course for 73 degrees, I think it said. Anyway, 74 would do. And let's get some speed up. 16 knots. So we've got an iceberg ahead, so already we've got to divert. And yes, although we are moving, we're not, because the iceberg, apparently nothing happens outside other than the time of day changes and a shark may appear. You are feeling peckish. Iceberg avoided. So let's slow down and go downstairs and see what we can get to eat. You'll be doing this quite a lot. You've got to stand in front of the area, press the joystick, and then hold up on the joystick to fill up on calories. Of course, in real life, when Richard Branson did this, he had an entire crew with him to do the hard work. But this being Richard Branson's game, of course, Richard does everything himself. So the calories are now full. We've got a fishing boat we've got to avoid, although we're going very slowly at the moment. So we can just change course, and then it would tell us we've avoided it, and then we go back on course. You get the idea. The radar doesn't show you where these obstacles are. It only shows you where the refueling tanker is. And there's none of the drama of the real crossing, because if you've seen the video available on YouTube of the crossing, you've got things like breakdowns, you've got water in the fuel, and fuel filters becoming failed, and an RAF Nimrod having to fly out at the taxpayer's expense to drop off new fuel filters. Let's go to the radar. So we are 299 out from the refueling tanker. Would I like to release a film? We're over to the Amstrad version. It says the 1986 Blue Riband there. It is not, because this didn't qualify for the Blue Riband. The people in charge of the Blue Riband wouldn't give it up because the Virgin Atlantic Challenger wasn't a commercial vessel and it refueled on the way. So Richard Branson just claimed he'd won it and then made himself a trophy because Richard Branson. Amstrad version's in mode 0. Looks nicer, and it tells you how far you've travelled. But again, you don't look like Richard Branson, you look like Eddie Jordan. You've got to stand exactly the right place to activate there you go, that's the radar, which is useless for anything other than the tanker location. That map will show you a map of where you are as well. You can go into the engine room, but you don't need either of those things, really, as long as you've got the correct heading and you're not going too fast. If you go too fast, you use too much fuel and the engine overheats. Time to stock up on calories. Don't want to get too low or you become ill. Not many reviews of this game, but Sinclair user said it's a perfect budget title. Snag is, it costs $7.95, 2 out of 5. Couldn't find any Amstrad reviews. The thing is, this is a game based on Richard Branson's solo crossing of the Atlantic, Well, I mean, as I said earlier, Solo, apart from the highly trained crew he had, but in the world of being a multi-millionaire, the little people don't matter. This would be like a computer game about Alan Sugar inventing a home micro in his shed. This is the engine room. Tells you useful things like engine temperature, so you can judge that you're not overheating. We are 2% in. We are travelling at 26 knots. The actual crossing was done in 3 days, 8 hours and 31 minutes and averaged just under 36 knots. We're back on the Spectrum, so we've got to make haste. The going is good. So we're going to set it to 35 knots. And we're heading 74 degrees, heading to refuel. Again, this is where the record attempt, it's not really it is a record and it isn't a record. Because, as I say, he didn't do it the same way everyone else did it. But, yeah, they had water in the fuel, and that caused them major issues. They would have got across far faster. The Tomorrow's World presenter was on board as well, and there's some good video. Always Richard Branson driving. Always Richard Branson. Whenever the camera was on, it was Richard Branson driving the craft. Richard Branson for everything. I mean, fair play, he's paying for it, but, you know, it's a bit of an ego trip, really, isn't it? Like this game. There's no C64 version. 2 versions were developed. The Virgin scrapped the first one because it didn't look good enough. Then the programmers of the Amstrad and Spectrum version were given a go. But by the time it was ready or nearly debugged, Virgin decided against releasing it and it's never been found. Daylight is fleeting! In the words of Richard O'Brien, or nearly that. We have travelled 5%. 10 hours in. It's so boring. You'd think there'd be more action to this. The exciting stuff. It's just a management game. You're just running around the craft, hoping nothing terrible happens whilst you're down below. Would I like to build a chocolate factory? I thought that said chocolate monkey. Yes, I want to spend £500,000 on that. Was it £50,000? The aim is, of course, being Richard Branson, you don't just have to set the world record, you have to come out of this with a profit, do you see? Because he's multi-millionaire Richard Branson with all his businesses. When I first played this game to have a look at it, I thought, there might not be enough here even to do a video. I might just do it as a Patreon video and see how far I can get. But no, here we are doing it as a full review. And yes, I was shocked to find no C64 version. Over to the Amstrad, and that's my position. I'm about a third of the way to the tanker. Hoping for some excitement when we get to the tanker. I'm 7%. Heading 66 speed. Let's get it up a bit. Although we'd probably get a warning about engine overheating if I go too fast. It's all this constant running around. Fishing boat ahoy and all this. I mean, why? You're quite far out into the Atlantic. Why would there be a fishing boat? I mean, icebergs were a real threat during this. And they did hit something about 100 miles from the finish line on the original run. But for all the high-octane shots of this on the news from helicopters and stuff, look, this is just a static screen. It's like you're just sitting at the quayside. You don't even see the fishing boats coming towards you. I've gone green. Eddie Jordan has gone green. And you become lethargic. We're starving. Get to the right position. Oh, look, my calories were low. I mean, why have you got to refuel on... Just, it's... All the time you're down here, other things are happening. You could be crashing into things and so on. And it's rather poor. By the way, if I sound a bit bunged up, I am. Weather update. Nothing on the radar still, but we are 194 out from the tanker. 194 watt miles, socks, bobbins, who knows? Another fishing boat. And note all the fonts are the Amstrad CPC standard font because, you know. That said, it's, you know, for the laziness of this and the lack of action, this is my third go at the Amstrad version, and I'm now getting closer to the tanker. I've usually crashed and died by now. When you get close to the tanker, it's a good idea to keep topping up your calories at any spare moment because you're going to need that energy soon. Daylight is fleeting again. We're now 156 out. Need to be on a bearing of 66. Your bearing is shown on the top there. My fuel is in the yellow. Should pick another fishing boat. Change the heading. And then change it back. And then go and check you're on the correct heading. You haven't veered too far off. Back to the Spectrum. Alan is wandering around. Got a hazard. Oh. Let's get up there. Get away from this fishing boat. We're going quite fast. The controls respond really badly on the Spectrum. They just jump around. The Amstrad version is fine, but the Spectrum version is just... I don't know why. We're 13 hours 48 in. There's fog ahoy, and the big shark has appeared again. Whale. Now it's got to finish a shark. We're 8% of the way across the Atlantic. Storm ahead. Don't worry, you're not going to see anything exciting like rain or anything. It's dull. It's dull. How do you make a game about something exciting as dull as this? Surely arcade action with a little bit of management, a bit of driving, and then you've got to do some things. Not just this. Not this. Iceberg again. Best thing that can happen is we're going to hit something and it's all going to be over. Because I don't fancy sitting here for, we're at 10% in at 15 hours. Been playing this about 15 minutes now, so it's going to be well over an hour before I'm done. However, I've avoided the fishing boat. And again, nothing is happening. And why doesn't Alan, Richard, need to sleep? I've got to feed him. Oh, I've sunk. Why did I sink? I collided with an iceberg. Hooray. And I lost 50 grand. And I got 10% of the way across the Atlantic. Back to the Amstrad. Eddie is going to go and check the radar. We are 27 miles out from the tanker. I assume it's miles. Better get up top because something exciting is going to happen. We're going to be refueling. And we have a word with those tanker crew to say don't put water in our diesel. You don't want water in your diesel. You just don't want that. So I'm heading the correct bearing. 66. 18% of the way in. As far as I can tell, there was only one refueling point. Oh, I've arrived at the tanker. Refueling complete. Was that it? That was it? Wow. Right, well, yeah. As far as I can tell in real life, they had one refueling stop. I could be wrong there. I didn't see anything else mentioned, but all a long time ago. But we're heading along at 16 knots, which is too slow, and we're heading towards our next refueling point. So let's go back up top for some excitement. We're 20 hours in. Iceberg avoided. Back on course, right. Time to eat again. He's so hungry. He's a very hungry Richard Branson. You think he could carry some energy bars or something with him rather than constantly go to the kitchen to eat? Or, you know, have a crew. Oh, no, but he doesn't have a crew. It's Richard Branson's solo adventure. What am I saying there? I assume someone had to show him this game, and he would have thought it was brilliant. Look, it's me on a computer screen. You can be me. Everyone would want to be me. Oh no, I've gone too fast there. Engine braking up. I'm pushing it. I'm 24%. Can I get to 25% before something horrible happens? Given that, yeah, we've been travelling for a day and this is quite slow going. Not as slow going as the Spectrum version. The Spectrum version, the time seems to run slower. Fishing boat ahoy! I see no ships. I see no ship. Oh! Well, apparently I didn't see the ship, but I hit it. Still got to 25%. Richard Branson's Ego Boat Simulator. All the thrills and spills of the Isle of Wight ferry. How do you take something so exciting that has all these visuals on the news of this massive speedboat speeding across the Atlantic and turn it into this? Hell! There's no thrills and spills, it's just an utterly dull resource management simulator. Almost like one of those phone games where you just have to keep on tapping things to keep something alive. Should you be on watch to avoid hitting an iceberg, or should you eat? Because that's the level of excitement here. Everything else is an aside. The Spectrum version sees Alan Sugar wandering around a ship. It's fiddly to steer the boat, fiddly to position yourself for each of the little items you need to activate, and it's just exceptionally dull. The Amstrad version, some effort has been made with the graphics, although Richard looks like Eddie Jordan. Not that anyone would have known what Eddie Jordan looked like then, but it's still equally dull. C64 owners have dodged a bullet twice, given that 2 versions were produced and neither was released. This is just another Richard Branson ego trip. Both versions are competently programmed. The Amstrad version looks quite nice. However, it's just the dullest way to go about a game like this. More arcade action, less resource management. As I said earlier, what you want is powerboat excitement, and what you get is the Isle of Wight ferry.